So this is a lesson on, well, class, because, well, there was, I think it was number 3, called Seeing in Between. Now, do you know the difference between an attorney or a lawyer? Yes, it sounds like Al, but there's an attorney and a lawyer. And then, of course, if you go to Walmart, are you a client or a customer? Do you understand the difference? Now, the thing about that is, well, a customer goes in, purchases something like from Walmart, Target, wherever, so on and so forth. You're a customer, right? So when you're going there, you're a customer. If you're a client, you work with a practice. So think like a marketing firm, a law firm, a tax attorney, so on and so forth, a professional in the field, wherever. Now, when you're working with that, you're a client. Now, this comes from a smart man. If you don't know who, what's his name? I got to remember his name, but he helped out a lot of people. He used to work with Tony Robbins. Now, as this guy started going, he started saying stuff because he's well respected in the marketing environment, right? He's almost like a marketing god, right? And he's really good with his words. And so when he brought up client versus customer, that was the big thing. And I remember when I spent almost everything I had to go to this Tony Robbins event called UPW in New Jersey, where I walked across fire, hot coals, and everything else, so on and so forth. And once I literally said something, I was like, oh, I know what he's doing. All of a sudden, things started changing for me, right? And he was like, what did you say? And then this girl said, what was that? And I said, I know what he's doing. And somebody said, oh, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, they do this to us in the military, in boot camp. And he goes, stop. Would you like to go to lunch? And so this girl came out with me to lunch and so on and so forth. And she started talking about her boyfriend and everything else, this, that, and the third. And I was like, this is so interesting. I said, hey, why don't you come out with me? You can bring your boyfriend and everything else. We could all have fun and continue this conversation. And all of a sudden, she disappeared like a ghost. So that was one of the things that I thought it was interesting because, well, although I used to watch shows like Hustle with Mickey Bricks and everything like that, which is a show of, well, motley crew con men who see and look at who are the real criminals and see if they could take it as well as dish it, right? Because, well, two wrongs don't make a right, or does it? Because, well, everybody has pride. However, once they get to somewhere, well, let's see, because they might have screwed everybody over in the long run. And even though they say that they want this, they may want that. So how do you get eyes on them, right? Well, that's what surveillance is for. Now, where is it? Well, the cameras are plain in sight, but the others, well, they're all around you and you can't see it. Now, when we're talking about clients versus customers, right? And attorneys versus lawyers, when you're in trouble, who do you get? A lawyer or an attorney? When you're hungry, do you go to Walmart or do you go to your attorney? So this is the difference, right? You have your customer. They go to Walmart, they go to Target, they go to Food Lion, wherever they want. You have a client. They go see a lawyer, so on and so forth, etc. Why? Because somebody has to speak for you at the bar, if you know what I'm saying. So what happens with that? Well, when that happens, you have to understand certain terminologies, languages, and things like that because there's synonyms out there, right? And there's antonyms. So what's one thing may mean another. So if you haven't seen my last video, there's something called a kunai in Filipino martial arts. And I talk about the yin and yang symbol. The thing is, if you were to flip a kunai one way and you have the other one hanging and you put them together, that's a yin and yang symbol because two wrongs don't make a right. And that's why people shouldn't kill. That is some stealing it from Forged in Fire, but you shouldn't do that, right? So how do you spell cool? Do you spell it C-O-O-L or do you spell it K-W-E-L and cool, right? Or is that a K with a well? So this is why you shouldn't play with certain things that you don't understand because, well, words have meaning, power, and feelings are very detrimental to one's health if you push them one way. Now, I know this because I had to speak to one Campbell. Her name was Vivian. She's full of soup. And then you had another one that, was nice to me, so on and so forth. Now, although this is talk therapy because you like giving commercials like BetterHelp does, this is what I like to do on YouTube. So check this out. There's a reason why there is a FCC, right? But when they can't be seen, right, you have C squared. Now, what's C squared? Well, if you remember the other videos I had, what is E equals MC squared? Didn't that come from Einstein? who is a German Jew? No? Okay, well, if you don't know what E equals mc squared, right? E equals mc squared. So mass times light to the second power. But what does that mean? M and C is the person that speaks, right? And MC, right? Like Dougie Fresh and everything else like that. So then you have this. Well, if this is mass, right? And a mass is something that deals with matter, aren't you filled up with everything that matters? So what are you looking for? That's the light, right? Now, sometimes people can't see the light. And if they try too hard, they may not even be able to walk in the dark. So sometimes you need a spotlight. That's why we have the two here. Now, if you studied class, you would know that there's art, right? And science and everything else. So why is the two there, but then there's two C's with the FCC? People are very smart when they think they could get away with something in public or private. But when technology and everything else kicks in, and then somebody actually starts opening their mouth like they said they would, because they're always telling the truth, well, then what's the problem? The problem is that people are always looking for a real one. And I had a friend, and I'm going to share this with you right now because I got upset. And a gentleman of mine named Scott pointed at me and he goes, "Oh, did you get married?" And I was like, "I'm about to punch you in the face." So anyways, long story short, it's a different thing. But the reason why that happened was because, well, there was a gentleman named Caleb who won a show called Fool Us, right? With a chicken and an egg thing. And Penn Jillette asked him a question because he thought he got away with something. He goes, "Oh yeah? Well, they really fooled us that time. Ha 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 ha." And it was very one of these things. And I was like, "Oh, you don't know about Dragon Balls." So I asked somebody, I said, "Do you know where salmon eggs come from?" "No." I said, "That's called escargot." And she was like, "What?" I said, "You never heard of caviar?" And they were like, "No." And I was like, "Okay. So you never seen DBZ, the Dragon Balls?" "No." "Okay." So I said, because you didn't understand class, creativity, and logic, you couldn't really understand art. So therefore, I led you to science, and now you had to reach out to spirituality. Now we're getting emotional. So E equals mc squared. Energy, right, equals, or emotion, right, matter or mass, right, to work together in order to see what's right, what's wrong. The thing is, you can't always see what's right in front of you. So the FCC steps out first, and then the backup comes in later. So you have your E equals mc squared to the second power, and that's why it looks like that. Does that make sense? So if you've been paying attention in class, you'd understand what this all means. So remember, just to recap, oh, and by the way, if you're on TikTok because you're a social media manager or whatever, cap means to lie now. So a cap, not like a cap you put on a tooth, but a cap, right? Oh, you capping, blah, blah, blah. It means you're lying. You have to learn the language of the children, or as the birds would say, right? Think the librarian, right? So if you go to Walmart, you're a customer. If you work with somebody professionally, you're a client. Now, an attorney and a lawyer are different, but somebody has to speak for you at the bar or pass the bar exam, if that makes sense. And the way you pass a bar exam, well, I'll leave that up to you and your creativity alone. So work on that, work with that, I don't care. But if you haven't seen class, please go back and pay attention again, because there's always creativity and logic before art, and then science, and then spirituality. Well, that's why I added an E, because people don't understand emotions. That's why they go to church, to look for spirituality or a temple, right? So if you're not understanding what temple is, then think temporal, okay? Now, once that happens, it's where energy gets released, so on and so forth, etc. But if you don't understand that, then you never understood the yin and yang, because you are the temple yourself, because you are the church, and you are the body. Take care. I'm out. My name is Michael. Smash that like button and follow me if you love this. Take care. God bless. Peace.